Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction is filled with memorable scenes such as the adrenaline shot, the diner robbery, and of course the "say what again." There's so much to choose from, but in this video I want to focus on the specific scene in which Butch decides to save Marsellus Wallace. And in my opinion, it includes 20 seconds of perhaps some of the greatest acting that has been caught on film thanks to Bruce Willis. So here's the scalpel, hit the like button and help me perform scene surgery on this masterpiece. Just a quick recap of how the characters arrived at this point. Butch had to lose a pre-arranged fight but instead wins it, loses Marsellus Wallace a ton of money, and now Mr. Wallace wants him dead. Butch is about to flee to Tennessee with his girlfriend, but a missing gold watch forces him to go back. Lo and behold, they end up bound and tied in the basement of these perverts who are about to make undescribable things to them. Butch manages to untie himself and he's about to escape. The perverts are dealing with Wallace, so he could just walk out the door. But we're getting ahead of ourselves because our surgery starts a few seconds back when Butch has just broken loose and the gimp is unconscious. Butch was the only point of light, white light, in a sea of earth tones, so that's already a sign that he represents innocence and cleanliness among all the debauchery around him. The only thing that is not brown in that room is the door that leads to where Marsellus Wallace is. It is a pale green. And in color symbolism, colors can have positive and negative meanings. And you can remember in cartoons when a character gets sick or they smell something foul, it's going to be color with a dirty green. But Butch breaks free and he immediately goes for the exit. That's just a curtain, and a ray of blue light creates the perfect contrast and meaning of salvation out there. It's important to notice that he walks from left to right. That is the direction in which we usually think of progress or going forward, since we read from left to right, which immediately brings us to an extreme close-up of Zed's keys on top of the display counter. This just serves as a transition between the low-light basement and the pawn shop. So Butch grabs them. We have a bit of a continuity hiccup there because the keys are not in his hands, but that's really easy to miss and doesn't affect the scene. What is worth mentioning is that in that horizontal pan following Butch as he reaches for the exit, if we divide the frame in 4 quadrants, so you should remember that visually, the quadrant that has the most weight visually is the upper right one. The one that has the less weight is the lower left one. And oddly enough, that high visual weight quadrant is dominated by the figure of what looks like a crow. And crows have a variety of meanings, but one of them is transformation, which unsurprisingly was one of the themes of Brandon Lee's The Crow. But back to Butch. He's rushing for the door, and this time he has been moving from right to left, which is the opposite of what we saw when he was coming out of the basement. Going from right to left has a symbolism of going back, and in this case he's going back to his girlfriend. Now, this frame can have a lot of meanings just from what's in the background. The most relevant is the Confederate flag and Old Glory side by side. We know that for many reasons the Confederate flag has been controversial in recent times. Tarantino himself has said that the Confederate flag is the quote-unquote American swastika, but I don't think that was the meaning that he went for all the way back to 1993 when he was making the movie. Still, it's interesting to see that leaving Marsellus Wallace, a black man, to a horrible fate is marked by the Confederate flag or the exit to the left, and choosing to go back and do something about it is marked by Old Glory on the right. Might have some kind of symbolism. I will let you decide on that one. As for the license plates, the only thing I notice is that one of them is from Tennessee, the state that Butch was planning to flee to with his girlfriend, which oddly is the volunteer state, and that's very appropriate since he's about to volunteer for something. Just a passing mention of the number 1271, that coincidentally is the year in which Marco Polo set out on his long journey to the distant east, and from Los Angeles to Tennessee is also a long eastward journey. Anyway, I digress. This is the moment that we should zoom in. into Bruce Willis' facial acting, because these are the glorious 20 seconds I was mentioning before. He unlocks the door, but as he's about to open it, he turns around and hears the screams of the psychopaths, and he can only imagine what's going on with Wallace. The first expression that we see in the sequence is someone who is scared and wants to make sure nobody is following him. He's hunched, he's scared, he's breathing heavily, but immediately after that we see the first shift. His torso straightens and his face turns from fear to pity, maybe compassion. He lowers his brows in a display of disgust, and that's when he finally opens the door. But when he does that, he barely moves. He doesn't really look outside. He swallows hard, looks back again, and this time really disgusted of the screams and what's happening, and the camera slowly zooms in. That's when everything changes for him. He presses his lips and his eyebrows together, thinks for a couple seconds, and closes the door. When he looks back one last time, his facial expression is of determination. He knows what he must do. Another hard swallow, then he takes a deep breath like someone about to get back in the water. Now, when Butch was about to leave the pawn shop, the camera was fixed, just panning horizontally. Now it's moving right behind him, like chasing him. And that's one way of involving us, the spectators, in the action. Like whatever crazy thing Butch is about to do, we are going to be there with him. Now, he's looking for a weapon, something to help him take on the two psychopaths in the basement. And the first thing he does is looking inside a drawer. Notice that he completely bends to look and then bends even further for the lower drawer. And he finds a hammer. Nice enough, right? He tests the weight, screams still in the background, but then turns to find a bat. It could seem like nothing, but he didn't have to hunch to get the bat. It was almost lying right there in the display counter. Then he keeps looking around and, hey, a chainsaw. Notice that the chainsaw was also a bit higher than the bat. Like, he is not only picking more powerful weapons in each time, but the fact that some are in lower drawers, some are in the middle shelves help categorize them in different levels. Now, so far, Butch looking for a weapon has been a continuous shot. That immediately changes when we have a tilt-down shot from something that is on the top shelf. And this shot is interesting because in this case, Bruce Willis is looking straight at the camera. He's looking at us. It is not breaking the fourth wall because he's not talking to us. He's not acknowledging our existence, but it's more like what he just saw has life, like us. Like we embody the life and soul of what he just laid his eyes upon. And whatever he's looking at, it is us right now. And of course, it raises the tension because now we absolutely want to see what Butch just laid his eyes upon. What's more, he puts the chainsaw aside with an attitude that he found the one thing. And that one thing is, of course, the katana, in a nice close-up. No other weapon had a close-up. This is to convey that he has zeroed in this one. Now, so far, most of Butch's shots have been a neutral tilt, or with the camera tilting down a bit. When he was looking for the hammer, this is the exact opposite. A 45-degree tilt up that makes him look massive and, most important, powerful. He takes his time to unsheath the sword and doesn't waste any more time. He just tears the curtain apart, letting the outside light flood the basement, and goes in step by step. What I liked about the lighting here is the transition from the blue, heavenly tones of the outside to the brownish and filthy tones of the basement. And he finally reaches for the green door that we already know that represents illness and pushes it open, making as little noise as possible. One thing that I hadn't mentioned yet is that the way the camera is positioned and the way Butch acts like he's going to leave the pawn shop, walking to the left, but instead decides to save Marsellus Wallace walking to the right, means that saving Wallace meant going forward for him. Escaping would have been just running away, going backwards. So it's like the real going forward was marked by saving Wallace no matter what. That is a great way to convey the struggle within the character and how his decision was made. If I missed any detail, feel free to let me know in the comments and tell me of any other movie or TV show scenes that you'd like analyzed. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Scene Surgeon. Much love and bliss.